Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from beautiful Florida. And today our question comes to us from Red Dragon. And Red Dragon writes to say that many cultures have had ways of revering their deceased loved ones, either as gods or as spirit guides or angels or bodhisattvas or heroes like Heracles in the ancient world, all sorts of different ways. And in these cases, the ancestors are basically treated as minor deities, and Red Dragon asks whether I think this is appropriate in the context of the modern world. And, you know, being a Corellian, I come from a tradition where ancestor veneration is actually extremely important. And so, of course, I'm going to say, yes, I think it's quite appropriate. And I am very big on the veneration of my own ancestors, and I think you probably ought to be for your ancestors as well, at least if they choose to be venerated. And if you do a search of all of our uploaded videos at MagickTV, you'll find that we've done many on the subject of ancestors, which will give you quite a range of information dealing with this subject, as people have asked many different questions. But I think one of the problems has to do with how we describe these particular spirits, and particularly the use of the term deity or god. In paganism, we use the term deity in many different ways. We use it for the universal forces of the cosmos, but we also use it for the spirit that animates all things, and the spirit that is animating the blade of grass, or the kitty cat, or one's neighbor, or oneself, or the trees in the garden, or the house you live in, or the forest next door. All of these have a spirit. They all have their own spirit, which is in effect their own deity. And in the First Degree book, we talk about this in Chapter 1, under the subject of Genius or Juno, and how in ancient Roman culture, a great deal was made of the relationship with one's personal deity, which is one's own soul, one's own spirit. And when we speak about venerating the ancestors, it's that aspect of them that we're talking about venerating. And is that treating them as a minor deity? Well, yes, I suppose it is, but everything is divine in a pagan point of view, at least the pagan point of view that I come from. And there is no reason on earth not to recognize that divinity when it is appropriate to do so. I think that we would probably, in the cultures that we currently are dealing in, be more clearly understood if we use the term spirit for many of the things that we have traditionally used the term God to describe, but in the end it's really the concept, not the word, that is important. And everything, again, is divine. It all has its own spirit, its own little deity. So is it appropriate to treat your deceased loved one as a kind of minor deity? Well, yes, in a manner of speaking, it is. And I think that it's completely appropriate to build a relationship with the spirit of your beloved ancestors, and to ask them to intercede in your life when it's appropriate. And of course it depends on the particular ancestors, and it depends on the nature of your relationship with them, and how you build that relationship, and to some extent it can even be influenced by the culture that they come from. My family, for example, expected to be venerated as ancestors, and had been doing it for a long time, and therefore they were quite ready to take that role. But I find that in general, one's ancestors usually are. So I think it's a wonderful thing, I think it's completely appropriate, and I think that it generally enriches anyone's life who practices it. So I say go for it. Now, to some extent, Red Dragon is asking about a little bit more than this, I think. I think he's asking whether it's appropriate to venerate deceased persons who were particularly adept in certain skills, and ask for their guidance, as you might a tutelary deity. And I also think this is completely appropriate. And the late Olivia Robertson, the head of the Fellowship of Isis, was the foremost living oracle in her day, and I would say that if you needed help in developing oracular skills, she would be a wonderful spirit to pray to and ask for assistance. Whether she would give it or not, of course, is up to her, but I don't see anything wrong with asking. And I certainly think that people who belong to her organization, or organizations such as my own that were influenced by her, certainly should show her the respect that they would show to their physical ancestors, because at a philosophical level she did just as much for them. And many other people in history are this way as well. And so I think it's completely appropriate to venerate those people, to honor them, and to build a spiritual relationship with their spirit. So I hope that answers your question. Again, I would recommend doing a search of our uploaded vlogs and looking at the many other topics we've discussed dealing with ancestor veneration. I think you'll find it very enlightening. And until next time, may you blessed be. Today's vlog is brought to us by the term Taoism.
Taoism. Taoism is the name given to the popular form of Chinese paganism. The religion takes its name from the word Tao, which means the way, referring to the natural movement of energy in the universe. Though legend attributes the founding of Taoism to the sage Lao Tzu, its roots lie far back in Chinese prehistory. Taoism is a magical religion with a strong similarity to Wicca. For many centuries, Taoism was one of the three major religions that coexisted in China, the others being Buddhism and Confucianism.